So what's up with all the footprints in the church is a question I have been getting quite a bit. And for those of you who are online wondering what that's all about, there are a series of these footprints put from each door leading here right into the sanctuary. And that is representing part of the first step and some of the things that we are going to be building as visual things throughout the course of Advent to represent our journey together. That we're going to be taking steps in a journey together, a journey to joy. And the question I have for you all is, can anybody use more joy today? Can anybody? Yeah, it's right. It's not a fake question there, right? If you have plenty of joy, that is wonderful. I don't want that to change, and I hope that remains in your life for your whole life. But seriously, a show of hands, how many people could use more joy in your life? And if you're online, you can throw up your hand online. You can do a shout out. There are people up there, seeing a lot of people with your hands up. And so that is what we are going to dig into. But one of the first things we need to know, if we're going to go on this journey, is what is joy and what is it not? And the first thing to know is this: joy is not the same thing as happiness. The world has kind of gotten those two words kind of conflated, where they almost come to mean the same thing. Like where love has kind of been diluted, but joy has kind of been diluted by this confused word happiness in there. And the difference is that happiness is almost exclusively generated by external factors. You get happy when someone does something nice for you. You get happy when you buy something, you get a promotion, or something really good happens to you. But for nearly everybody, happiness is generated by external things going on. And that can change, right? So your happiness can be destroyed by things that are bad going on in your life. Joy is the opposite of that. Joy is not dependent on the things that are happening outside, but is grounded in something deeper, grounded in something that is there despite things going poorly, something that is there for you while you are in the midst of it all. So how do we get more of that? How do we take a look at that? That's what we're going to dig into with the scriptures today, and we're going to start here with the gospel story from Luke, which is kind of a little creepy. But in this passage, Jesus lays out the challenge facing the disciples and facing the world. And he's talking about, hey, here are the things to look for if you're worried, and you're really worried about the world, and you're really worried about the condition of the world. These are the things that you want to watch out for to be ready for whatever next stage is going to happen in the world. And he basically says, beware when you see funky things going on in the world. Right? Beware when you see funky things going on in the environment. Beware when you see the earth in distress. Beware when you see distress amongst the nations. Beware when you see the seas and the currents and things acting differently than they used to. Beware when you see people fainting from fear over what is going on in the world. And so I'm just curious, can anyone here relate to this passage right now? Right? So I'm not taking a show of hands on that. And if you're not, that's great. I'm not asking you to be feeling like this about the world. I wish you weren't feeling that. And if you're not, then that is great. And I'm not trying to change that. And this message may not be for you today, because not all messages are for everybody every time, right? But I saw and heard a lot of reactions to the affirmative on that question. So where is the hope? Where is the help we get when we are facing situations like this? And we start to get that from Psalm 25 that we heard earlier. Here is where we get the source of hope and the source of help. It says, "To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul." My soul. Think about what that, kind of the depth of that word. It doesn't say I lift up my emotion. It doesn't say I lift up my thoughts. It doesn't say I lift up this emotion of myself or that kind of thing. It says I lift up my soul. This person is feeling something deep and essential and core to who they are. It's not a small thing. And so who is the source of help? And it says, "Oh my God, in you in you I trust. And trusting from what? To protect me from all this external stuff that's coming after me. To protect me from my enemies. To protect me from the people who are taunting me and exulting over me when I am in my misery and they are in their glory. Protect me from the people who are intentionally trying to hurt me, wantonly treacherous. And what is the ask? The ask is, help me. But help me what? Help me learn to walk in your way. Help me learn to walk in your path. In fact, it says, make me know your ways, which means teach me. Teach me to walk in your ways. And then, in case we missed it the first time, it says, teach me your paths. Lead me to your truth. And then in case we missed it the first 3 times, again it says, teach me. Teach me. Then we learn a little bit more about this from the passage in Thessalonians. Now this is one of the earliest readings that we get in the New Testament. This is one of the first letters that Paul ever wrote, which makes it one of the earliest preserved copies of anything written in the New Testament. And here in Thessalonica was one of the first churches that he planted. And he had to leave sooner than he expected, and soon after he left, he got word through letters back that things were very difficult on this church. That the people around them were pressuring them to change, to go back to the ways, to abandon the way of Jesus, to abandon the ways that Paul was teaching them about the faith. But they stood up to it. They stood up to it. And so we hear the following. We hear the following. They don't give in despite all of those pressures. And so we hear Paul say, how can we thank God enough for you in return for all the joy that we feel before our God because of you? Basically, I am so impressed that despite all the pressures of the world, despite all the external pressures, despite all the people trying to pressure you in society, trying to pressure you into a way not following that way of God, not following that path of Jesus, I am so amazed that you are able to do that I feel joy because you were able to continue to do that. And what's Paul doing here? Paul is offering them an appreciation. He's saying, I am so impressed that not only am I impressed with what you did and happy for you, but you gave me joy by being able to succeed in that way, and were able to persevere in that way. And then, knowing they are ready, Paul pushes them a little farther and says, now, may God have you increase and abound in love for one another and all, which basically means now go out and love each other in action. Not love like sit there and I love the world, not sit there and just love and say, oh, I'm going to love this person emotionally, but go out and do more actions of love in action. And in case we think Paul might be just saying that once, in Romans, Paul's letter to the Romans, he challenges people to outdo one another in love in action. Let love be genuine. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another in action, and outdo one another, and then rejoice in the hope that comes with that. Earlier this week, I had the blessing to go to Anna Grace Elementary School. And what they had done, last year, they did a big food drive. They have a program for their 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders called Change Makers. And these children learn about leadership, and then they do different things. And in this case, they did a food drive, and they asked again if we would like to be the beneficiaries for our food programs of their food drive, because they're very familiar with the program and are very excited about what goes on in this community of faith. And what they did was they challenged the children to outdo each other in giving. Right, and gave them different opportunities to raise this food and do different things to compete, to get things that would enable us to have more and more and more and more and more food. And there were 2 truckloads of Dave Nail's truck filled by this one school, by their 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So let's hear just a little of the enthusiasm that we got there. Dave's like, it was fabulous. And Carolyn was here, and other people were here to help us, organize and take the food out of there. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. But they had a joy that was unmistakable when we got there. Before we even got there, we could see the enthusiasm, the smiles, the joy that they were getting from doing this. And they kept thanking us. They kept thanking us, and they were the ones doing the giving, because that is how this works. That is how this works. So we're going to be going over this joy thing for the entire period of Advent, but a few things just for today to think about if you're looking for more joy in your life. 1, admit when you're not feeling it. Admit to yourself and just say, I'm not feeling that right now, because denying that feeling interferes with your ability to experience joy. One of the greatest tensions you can have is pretending things are different than your reality. Second, one of the things that you can do is one of the things that we learned from Psalm 25 right there, which is to say, God, help me in this walk. You don't have to do this on your own. Once you acknowledge the situation, say, okay, I want to get on this walk to joy. Help me get on this walk with you. Show me your ways. Teach me your path. And go and let go of what you think the world's trying to tell you to do, and try to get back on that path. And then, like it says in Thessalonians, it says, you know what? Paul shows this appreciation for the people. Right? He wasn't just happy that they had made it, say, okay, check, good job, glad you're in there. He goes out of his way to tell them how proud he is of them, and how that, in fact, gives him joy as well. And then, as the last passage said in Romans, outdo each other in doing good. This world could use a lot of good being done in the world. So here is my challenge to you that is going to help give you joy and also help provide joy out in the community. I would like this community of faith to outdo this world in joy during Advent. And one of the ways we can do that is offer gratitudes and thanks to people we know and people we don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide you with all kinds of opportunities to do this. But one of them is there are a bunch of cards here, different kinds of cards. Cards that you can leave on a windshield that's just going to make somebody's day, something that you can write to somebody specific and hand it to them, somebody you might be seeing just walking down the street that might need an uplift, something you see that you appreciate that somebody did nice in the grocery store, all kinds of different cards and things that are not enormous, that we're asking you to take some of these cards. You don't just take one. We're going to have all kinds, take as many as you want, but to go out and to find and look for the good in this world and to show people some appreciation. It might feel strange at first, especially if you're going up to somebody who you don't know. It's going to feel strange to them too. But once you do that and you feel how good that feels and they feel how good that feels, they may be like, why do you do that? You might say, oh, here's a pocket of confetti that Dorian gave me. Right? But if you do these things, if you pass this on, if you offer these appreciations, you are going to begin to feel joy. It won't mean the circumstances that the world have changed. Remember, this isn't getting rid of the stuff that's going on in the world or going to you. It is something that can persist in the midst of it all. And that's what we'll continue to talk about, joy in the midst of it all.